Have you ever gotten a new job and been given a manual that's supposed to tell you how to do that job? It's usually a PDF, or maybe it's housed in a 3-ring binder with a photocopied title page slipped under the transparent cover, and it starts with the mission of the company, something like Hobby Lobby for the most intolerant crafters. Or Boeing, our doors definitely do not fall off in midair. It contains everything you need to know to keep the bosses off your back. But what if, instead of instructions, that document held all the deepest, darkest secrets of the company you work for and all its competitors? What if it was enough to topple everything? Welcome to Strange and Unexplained with me, Daisy Egan. I'm a writer and an actor who broke the mold by starting my own podcast. Literally, no other writer/actor had ever made a podcast before me. I broke ground. I carved new paths. I am a trailblazer. Just kidding. I know I am one of many. But in spite of the existence of probably hundreds of podcasts led by us writer/actor types, there is no employee handbook. There is no one person who explains what works and what doesn't, no do's and don'ts regarding what kind of behavior is and isn't appropriate in the workplace. For example, I can goose my own butt and call myself Toots all I want without repercussion. There is no manual for podcasting. There are countless tutorials for how to make a podcast technically, but no magic formula for what might work and what might fail. Hell, even this podcast has its fans and its haters. It's podcasting, after all, not doctoring or space travel or, say, running a country, though Lord knows doctors, astronauts, and presidents get their fair share of haters too. The point is, there are some jobs that one needs some crucial information to do well. One of those things is being President of the United States. And what kind of training manual could there be for shouldering the vast and complicated history and the unfathomable responsibility of the office of U.S. President? Today, stranger, let's see if we can unravel the mysteries surrounding one of the most clandestine documents in American history, the President's Book of Secrets. President Kennedy once famously declared to reporters following the Cuban Missile Crisis, quote, "There is no experience you can get that can possibly prepare you adequately for the presidency," end quote. I mean, try parenting. But sure, presidenting is hard, what with all the decisions with real-life dire consequences to possibly billions of people each day, the upholding of a really poorly designed and rickety system we call American democracy, and the lack of an employee handbook. I worked for 3 years as a program coordinator for a university whose employee handbook was out of date and cobbled together by the vast number of people who'd held my position before me in the revolving door that was my underpaid position. Even so, it held some useful information that kept me afloat in my job. Not good at my job, mind you, but afloat. But there is no employee handbook titled, "So you got elected president. Now what?" Or maybe there is. Kept under lock and key and available only to certain eyes, there is rumored to be a document shrouded in secrecy. This book is said to contain the most sensitive intelligence and enumerates clandestine operations and covert government activities for review only by the occupant of the Oval Office and a few choice advisors. It is comprised, they say, of all the highly classified briefings given to presidents every morning for the last 80 years, give or take. The mysterious President's Daily Brief, the PDB, called by insiders simply the book, or, in a recent administration, the one-page memo at best, is a report that has arguably shaped the course of nations and has influenced the decisions of U.S. presidents since its creation. The first iteration of the PDB appears to have been created in 1941. It was then that President Franklin D. Roosevelt sought to establish a centralized foreign intelligence service to navigate the complexities of increased global conflict. Until then, there were rudimentary intelligence-gathering mechanisms at work in the U.S. dating back to Abraham Lincoln, who established the first intelligence agency in U.S. history when he tasked Allan Pinkerton co-founder of the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, with collecting intel and reporting back to him during the Civil War. Some believe this intel gathering goes much further back, though. According to these believers, George Washington himself compiled information he gathered as spymaster into a leather-bound book. But FDR's Foreign Intelligence Service is really the first official record of such goings-on. After that, the president's top advisors did the intelligence gathering and analysis, reporting their findings directly to the man in charge. David Preece, analyst, manager, and daily intelligence briefer for the CIA from January 1998 to March 2004, serving under the Clinton and Bush II administrations, writes in his 2017 book, The President's Book of Secrets, The Untold Story of Intelligence Briefings to America's Presidents, quote, "No chief executive in the Republic's first 150 years received any objective analysis of international events from an independent intelligence service. With no existential threats and limited global interests, the United States and its leaders could afford to go without them." End quote. Until they couldn't. Strangers, if you have kids, you have to check out Greenlight. Recently, I took my son and his buddy to AnimeCon. I let them go off on their own to explore. They each had their Greenlight debit cards, and Monty's friend had a spending limit for the day. His Greenlight card would not let him spend over his limit. Not 5 minutes after I let them walk away, his friend's mom called me to say he had just tried to spend over his limit, and could I find him and put him on the phone with her immediately. With Greenlight, not only can you set spending limits, but you also get notifications every time your kid makes a purchase. So I found the kids, put him on the phone with his mom, who chewed his ear off while I listened to Monty explain to me that it was okay because he just lent his friend $60. So I explained to him, again, that the money in his Greenlight account is all the money he has. My approach is to give Monty access to his money and let him learn from experience about budgeting. I'll remind him, but he's gonna have to learn by doing that once his money is spent, his money is spent. With the Greenlight debit card and app, kids learn about budgeting and can even learn about investing if you're into that kind of thing. Monty gets an allowance every Monday, and we have it set up so some of it goes to his spending account, some goes to savings, and some goes to a charity account. At the end of the year, he'll get to decide where he wants to donate. There's also an option to link payment to chores, so if he decides he wants more money, he can go pull weeds or something. Of course, I don't know how I'm going to afford this, but that's a whole different issue. If only I'd learned to budget when I was my kid's age. I hate money, but that doesn't mean I don't want my kid to be fiscally responsible. Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/strange. That's greenlight.com/strange to try Greenlight for free. greenlight.com/strange. During FDR's presidency, the U.S. faced many tribulations, including the crippling national financial impact of the Great Depression and the Second World War. The United States was financially vulnerable, and resources were spread out across the globe. What had never seemed crucial in the past suddenly seemed so, and the Office of the Coordinator of Information was born. According to Preece's book, the agency morphed into the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, the following year, which eventually morphed again into the CIA and the modern intelligence apparatus as we know it today. The OSS, quote, covered the gamut of intelligence activities, from the collection of human intelligence to propaganda and sabotage operations behind enemy lines throughout World War II. The Office of Research and Analysis, RNA, emerged as the country's first non-departmental analytic unit, collating information from diplomats, military reports, international media sources, and academic research, end quote. In other words, this was the most organized collection and reporting of sensitive intel to date, though it was, reportedly, very academic, and the president reviewing the report would rely heavily on notes made by the director of OSS, William J. Donovan, because the material was easier to digest this way. Personally, I'd want my version to be accented with wry gifs and fun emojis, and maybe even a song lyric peppered in here and there. But easier to digest, I believe, is code for don't make the president feel stupid with big words and concepts he might need a doctorate to understand. Though, Lord knows, requiring the president to have a doctorate, at least, maybe wouldn't be the worst idea. Assuming, of course, that getting elected would automatically wipe out their student loan debt. But if you think any human is capable of noting or summarizing this kind of information, or any information, without bringing their own implicit bias and opinions in, you don't know humans. Anyway. When Harry S. Truman took office at the end of World War II, he found out about the Manhattan Project, something he had no clue about until he entered office. He swiftly went about using the project's top-secret nukes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan, to end the war. Then he promptly did what presidents so often seem to do. He set about undoing the things his predecessor had done. This began with him promptly disbanding the OSS and creating his own Central Intelligence Group. When setting expectations of his newly formed organization, Truman, according to Preece, quote, did not explicitly mention current intelligence, such as daily analytic support for the president, but he clearly wanted it, complaining when conflicting reports reached his desk without any attempt at coordination. CIG's Office of Reports and Estimates attempted to meet his need with the first daily analytic product targeted at the president personally, the Daily Summary, a classified compilation of reports from across the government, end quote. This would have been an early version of the president's daily brief. These briefs didn't have information from across all of the government, though, which led to some deficiencies in information. Hence Truman's irritation. I get it. It's like when I go to the doctor and I fill out that paperwork in the waiting room and then I finally go in and a nurse or physician's assistant asks me a bunch of questions which are suspiciously similar to the ones on the forms, and then the doctor comes in and says, "What seems to be the problem?" And here we go again. Like, in this day and age of fancy computer software and databases and whatnot, can't these folks talk to each other? And while they're at it, why can't they talk to my other doctors? And then, when they talk to me, can't they ask me some new stuff and at least pretend they know what the heck is going on? Listen, if hackers can get my medical information, why can't my doctors? Anyway. As the decades inched toward the Cold War era, it became clear that the need for an interdepartmental daily intelligence briefing was paramount. Tensions with the Soviet Union escalated, prompting President Dwight D. Eisenhower to initiate a series of measures to ensure that the commander-in-chief was kept apprised of the latest developments in the shadowy world of espionage. His approach was to enforce a rigorous structure of briefings and National Security Council meetings before taking any foreign policy actions. Common sense kind of stuff. Following Eisenhower, JFK entered office in January of 1961. And just as his personal style was more rockin' Elvis to Eisenhower's croony, stiff Bing Crosby, noted wife-beater, by the way, so was his approach to being president, more loose in the hips. Kennedy adopted an improvisational style built around information-based dialogue and conversational inquiry. According to Preece, the president, quote, preferred ad hoc consultations with close aides, end quote. It was a new era, where in the past things had been orderly and more official-like. This was now the Wild West. Quote, dense bureaucratic prose had served Dwight Eisenhower just fine, but it would not fly with this president, end quote. TBH, who has time for facts when you have all that womanizing to do? Listen, boys, I don't have time for all this information. I've got 3 girls waiting for me in the presidential bathroom. They're eager to give me a real presidential salute, if you know what I mean. That was my JFK impression. Not only, though, was Kennedy stylistically and philosophically different from Dwight D., he also had acquired sobering experience that influenced his attitudes toward the intel he received. The Bay of Pigs was a near devastating foreign policy failure that led to the terrifying nuclear implications of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. The attempted military landing operation devised during Eisenhower's presidency failed. The troops were defeated within 3 days by the Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces, solidifying Fidel Castro's image as a brave leader of the people and sowing political division between the U.S. and Cuba. David Preece says of Kennedy in the President's Book of Secrets, quote, His takeaway from the Bay of Pigs was clear. An intelligence failure had led to bad advice, which in turn prompted a bad decision, end quote. Which serves to highlight how so-called objective facts can be interpreted any which way depending on who's doing the interpreting. How someone interprets information is informed by their politics and life experience. Unless you're reading raw data, you're getting someone else's opinion of raw data. Either way, while he started off playing a bit fast and loose with the briefings, following this debacle, Kennedy now understood he needed a more focused analysis of intelligence data. And so, each morning, Kennedy was given a pile of reports and documents he would then begin the arduous business of poring through for relevant information. But this, too, quickly proved unsustainable. Preece writes that Kennedy needed a more efficient solution. Quote, General Chester Clifton, military aide to the White House, wanted a document that Kennedy could fold and carry around in his breast pocket to read at his leisure between meetings during the day, end quote. Resulting in, quote, a product so limited in distribution that it would include highly classified CIA operational reports and other sources deemed too sensitive for the Central Intelligence Bulletin, end quote. They designed the document specifically for Kennedy, probably with naked pictures of Marilyn Monroe throughout. The new report, which came to be known as the PICL, President's Intelligence Checklist, within the CIA was a, quote, 8.5 by 8-inch booklet, which held 14 two-sentence pieces, 6 slightly longer notes, and a few small maps, end quote. And just for funsies, stranger, quote, because of this acronym, people joked that the Office of Current Intelligence was a pickle factory, end quote. So funny, these suits. It's nice that we can spy on people and commit lethal acts of international espionage, but still find time for a little pickle humor. How about you stick to ruling the world and I write the pickle factory jokes? By the way, the Pickle Factory is the name of my new band. We have a flutist and a piccolo player. If you play the pan flute, you can join. In the modern era, the brief, which has cycled through many names and iterations, the Daily Summary, the Situation Summary, the Current Intelligence Bulletin, the Central Intelligence Bulletin, and, of course, the unforgettable Pickle, until it finally became the PDB, so named by Lyndon Johnson in 1964. The PDB, or the book, has become a cornerstone of presidential decision-making. The document has been at the center of some of the most pivotal moments in American history. It might be thought of as sort of a laundry list of the most intense happenings at any given time. Intelligence analyst Tricia Bacon described it this way, quote, in the most basic way, it's a highly classified newspaper. Breaking events, breaking news, major issues that the president needs to be aware of, but then it's got a whole additional element to it. Is the president traveling or meeting with a world leader? It's designed to prepare the president for any of his upcoming meetings or trips or anyone he's hosting. It's really tailored to the president, end quote. So it sounds to me like the briefing became part daily calendar and part top secret world ending kind of shit. Like 9 a.m. breakfast with Canadian Prime Minister, 11 a.m. light aerobics, 12 p.m. cigars and lunch with President of France, 2 p.m. topple Chinese economy. You know, your regular everyday stuff and your ruler of an evil empire stuff. It's good to have a smorgasbord of activities throughout your day. Keeps your mind youthful. Back in Kennedy's day, analysts would get in at 5 a.m. to comb through new intel and add any information that came in late. Then, a final edit was handed via a locked bag to the president and the president's top advisors. All of this was done by 8:30 a.m. It's hard to imagine having to compile and analyze potentially world-ending information all before breakfast. I can barely eke out a game of Wordle. According to Tricia Bacon, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and 16 other entities, including every branch of the armed forces, contribute to the PDB. During Barack Obama's presidency, the document, which had always been an actual hard report, was transferred into a highly protected digital format at the president's request. Each day, the president would be handed a secure iPad that only he, a very few heads of departments within the administration, and those he named would see. Former White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer, who served under George W. Bush, called the PDB, quote, the most highly sensitized classified document in the government, end quote. Well, actually. According to an official document from the CIA titled The President's Daily Brief, Delivering Intelligence to Kennedy and Johnson, not every PDB was that top secret. Only rare editions were on super lockdown. Quote, these documents have been highly valued and continue to have limited distribution. Generally, the president's executive staff members, including most often the vice president, the secretaries of state and defense, and the national security advisor, and any other government officials the president identified to be recipients. Under President Kennedy, for example, the pickle was not provided to Vice President Johnson under the instruction of Bromley Smith, Kennedy's intelligence assistant, end quote. And thousands of the daily briefs have subsequently been declassified and released and are available for any Joe Schmo to read. But the release of the documents came decades after they were written, and so long after whatever sensitive information contained in them could do any real damage. The current and most recent administration's briefings are still under lock and key, and we all understand, of course, that anything that is highly classified is highly coveted by foreign entities. Strangers, I have a scary story to tell. Yesterday, I stripped the bed, and before I could put new Miracle Made sheets on the bed, my husband made the bed with regular old sheets. Obviously, I knew they weren't Miracle Made when I slipped into bed last night, but I was too tired to change them out. So wouldn't you know, in the middle of the night, I woke up to one of the scariest things in the world. My own sweat! That's right. In the million-degree heat on those plain old sheets, I sweat so much it woke me up. So I had to change what I was wearing and put towels down just to make it through to morning. And you better bet the first thing I did this morning was strip the bed again and immediately put fresh Miracle Made sheets on it. Miracle Made sheets are made with silver-infused fabric, technology inspired by NASA to help keep your temperature regulated. So even if you sleep hot and your partner sleeps cold, your Miracle Made sheets will keep you both comfy all night. Plus, they stay cleaner than regular sheets, preventing almost 100% of bacteria growth. You know what bacteria love? Sweat. Less sweat, fewer bacteria. That's just science. And because they're cleaner, that means fewer colds and clearer skin. What more could you possibly want from your sheets? How about impeccable customer service and a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee? That way, if you don't love the sheets for whatever reason, you can contact the amazingly helpful and friendly folks over at Miracle Made and send your sheets back for a full refund. Go to trymiracle.com/strange to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo STRANGE at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/strange and use the code STRANGE to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/strange to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. So, policies around the PDB have evolved over the course of the many presidencies through which it has been circulated, depending, of course, on who is in office and what is happening in the world. And each president, since the document's inception, has contributed something to that evolution. Donald Trump's contribution? Oh, he just said, "Not today, Bob," to all the international information that the entire intelligence community had gathered about everything. Not interested. America first, after all. Oh, he still gets the book, as it is still known even though it's on an iPad. He just doesn't look at it. Actually, what Trump said of the PDB on Fox News, according to an article from 2016 on NPR about the intelligence briefings, was,
"I don't have to be told. You know, I'm like a smart person. I don't have to be told the same thing in the same words every single day for the next 8 years. It could be 8 years, but 8 years. I don't need that."
I didn't want to punish you with either my terrible impression, which, if you can believe, is worse than my impression of JFK, and I certainly didn't want to punish you with the real thing. I mean, I agree. I don't want to hear the same words every single day for years either. Words like stable genius, lock her up, or nasty woman. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Anyway. Apart from the fact that not reading the intelligence briefings just seems really stupid, it also is wild to me because honestly, it sounds like a document that would be wicked intriguing. Come on, what Byzantine secrets does the President's Book of Secrets keep? These presidents have, over the years, been reviewing an intelligence brief that could contain juicier details than every episode of Vanderpump Rules combined. But, of course, we don't know that. Based on the briefs the CIA have declassified, the information is rather dry and bureaucratic. But who cares about evidence? The CIA probably declassified those specific briefs to throw us all off the scent. Like, see, there's nothing earth-shattering in these documents, it's just boring diplomatic honeydew lists. And who's to say those are even the real briefs? Or that they're not heavily redacted? Our insistence that the president's daily briefs contain such explosive information that every single one has been archived in a leather-bound book and is held in a clandestine spot known only to the acting president and one very trustworthy librarian. Honestly, I hope it's that awesome librarian dude from social media whose whole life mission is to spread love and joy. I fucking love that guy. Might have something to do with the fact that that is the plot of the popular 2007 action film National Treasure 2: Book of Secrets. The movie stars National Treasure himself, Nicolas Cage, and claims that all U.S. presidents have added to and passed down a book containing world-shaking histories and secrets. The movie contends that if the president is ever assassinated, a protocol is set in motion where the librarian in know informs the next president about this very important book, and the book is moved to a new secret hidey hole. I don't know why he has to be assassinated for this protocol to be set in motion. Why can't it just be whenever there's a new president? We get a new one every 4 to 8 years, after all. What, aside from the deep dive into world politics and fascinating analysis of foreign policy, could be waiting to be discovered in this book, you ask? Yeah, sure, the CIA released many of the old ones, but as I've expertly uncovered, those are probably fakes. Many speculate that the book contains a wide scope of information. The blog theunexplainedmysteries.com posits, quote, "This book is rumored to contain the truth about the alien landings at Roswell, New Mexico, and Rendlesham Air Base, UK, and many other UFO events. The truth about the JFK and RFK assassinations, the location of the Holy Grail, tying in with the Fort Knox conspiracy theory," end quote. The Fort Knox conspiracy theory, which is something I had no knowledge of until reading the research for this episode, is the belief that there really is no gold in that there fort. The idea is fueled by a growing suspicion of the government and the powers that be that the US government regularly deals in deceiving the American public. I wonder what they think the government is actually hiding in there. Aliens? Elvis? Hitler? Speaking of Hitler, the Unexplained Mysteries blog continues its list of possible information held in the President's Book of Secrets. Quote, "The fate of various high-ranking Nazis following World War II and the facts concerning the U.S. government's assistance of them, even the identity of the Antichrist. Even more insidious in terms of realism is the claim that the book told of the attacks of September 11, 2001, before they took place, and also tells of the imminent coup d'etat of Russia, followed by a Russo-North Korean invasion of South Korea, initiating World War III," end quote. I think they got the geography wrong on that one. Lol, everything is fine. Couple of questions. 1. Are we supposed to believe that a psychic writes these things? Like, these kinds of world events can be changed by, policy and stuff. Like, were the 9/11 attacks in there and everyone just shrugged and said, what can you do? It's in the book. 2. Does the identity of the Antichrist ever change? Or is he like an eternal being? Is this some name that was written at some point in the past and we're just, waiting for this person to be born? Like a Rosemary's Baby type situation? If we know his identity, can't we just, take him out? I mean, if Boeing can take out 2 whistleblowers in the middle of their depositions, allegedly, I'm just saying. Also, if this guy is an eternal being, wouldn't he have popped up on Unsolved Mysteries? How is it this one man has appeared in photographs spanning decades and seemingly never ages? Of course, the Unexplained Mysteries blog does not list any sources or give any verifiable information at all, but still does include the best bits of info believed by some to be hiding in the book. For example, 1. Quote, "The Lincoln Memorial is really made out of solid gold, painted white. Should the deficit hit $400 trillion, then it would be melted down to pay off debts." End quote. Why wait? 2. Quote, "Should the Supreme Court ever become deadlocked, perhaps by a 4-4 vote with one justice abstaining, then the president can take down the Great Seal of the White House, which is 4 feet in diameter, and flip it, while the vice president calls heads or tails to decide the case." End quote. I mean, what has actually been happening is not a whole lot crazier, but I wouldn't mind watching Joe Biden try to flip a 4-foot coin that has to weigh a couple hundred pounds at least. 3. Quote, "The missing 8 minutes on the Watergate tapes reveals then-President Nixon talking about what to do with aliens being held at a secret military base in Iowa." End quote. Not for nothing, but there were 18.5 minutes missing from the Watergate tapes, not 8. But sure, that makes sense. Why wouldn't he start randomly talking about aliens in the midst of debriefing about a national conspiracy to commit espionage against his own country? God knows 18.5 minutes about aliens might have helped distract people from the crimes he committed, but sure, it was aliens. 4. Quote, "The book also describes a secret deal between the United States and Canada where participants in the Witness Protection Program and certain celebrities gone bad, such as Lindsay Lohan, can live anonymously in Quebec as long as they promise to speak French." End quote. So, what you're telling me is they don't have TV or movies in Quebec? Is Lindsay Lohan some kind of national security threat? Is there some kind of trial with a jury of their peers, or does the president just get to decide who he wants to ship off to Canada? Is this an exchange program? Do we get famous Quebecians gone bad? Quebecoians? Judging from the list of more than 50 famous actors from Quebec that I just Googled, I'm guessing they'd have a lot more success hiding here than vice versa. I didn't know a single one of them. 5. Quote, "Hidden inside the Hoover Dam is the nation's secret stockpile of Spam, which is stored at negative 236 degrees, which would only be used in the event of World War III." End quote. I mean, if they can store Spam at negative 236 degrees, why not fresh vegetables and real non-processed meats? Or at the very least, other canned goods? Also, why would World War III necessitate the consumption of Spam? You know food still grows during a war, right? 6. Quote, "Secret documents show that for the past 2 decades, British royalty, such as Prince Charles and Queen Elizabeth, have been held in secret at Gitmo while clones of them perform their official duties." End quote. Well, that's a relief. I thought they were lizard people. I'd like to know which of the many crimes I'm sure have been committed by the royal family, both legal and moral, qualified them for Gitmo. 7. Quote, "Photographs of a mysterious device discovered on the moon during the 1970s Apollo program has been reanalyzed lately, and scientists are shocked to discover that it appears to be a 4th-generation iPhone." End quote. Irrefutable proof, I suppose, that other intelligent life exists in our universe. If they were up to the 4th generation of iPhone way back in the 70s, they must already have neural implant iPhones by now. 8. Quote, "A summary of underwater video footage taken by a Navy submarine of the BP oil leaks reveals that the bottom of the ocean is inhabited by mer people and King Triton, a Apparently, they worship oil rigs floating in the Gulf of Mexico, and believe the oil leak is a sign that one of their gods has become hurt." End quote. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Even our made-up mythical creatures worship oil. 9. Quote, "White House documents are also stored in the book which reveal that due to Bill Clinton's drinking habit, Hillary Clinton had to serve as the de facto president of the United States for a total of 102 days during his 2 terms in office." End quote. Figures we'd have a woman president, but she would get no credit and would be covering for a drunk dude. Actually, that really tracks. But if you think only one wife of a president in the last 80 years has served as the de facto president for at least some of her husband's presidency, you're underestimating the contribution of wives everywhere. And finally, 10. Quote, "The Book of Secrets also reveals that, contrary to popular opinion, America does have a royal family which secretly influences its policies behind the scenes. Furthermore, should Congress or the White House ever come to a constitutional impasse, the American monarchy, either through the king or queen, could take control of the country. Currently, it is rumored that the monarch in exile is the comedian Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who starred as Elaine on Seinfeld." End quote. Seinfeld? This article was written in 2018. Seinfeld? What about Veep? Does that mean that Julia Louis-Dreyfus's parents were king and queen before her? The way monarchies work, the line would likely be Dreyfus's for centuries. Can someone look into when that family immigrated to the U.S.? And who assumes the throne after Queen Dreyfus? I don't think she has any kids. Does the line die with her? Also, if she lives in exile, where did they shoot Veep? Honestly, I think this is probably true, but instead of a secret monarchy, it is just a very overt and not at all secret patriarchy, and the royal family are just the billionaires. Possibly more preposterous than any of the alleged secrets contained in the alleged president's Book of Secrets is that the acting president has the task of delivering each brief in person to the secret librarian. How does he do this without being tracked or followed? Surely someone in the Secret Service has knowledge, at least of which library the book is housed in. Maybe it's that Secret Service agent who has figured out where the book is and has leaked all these top secret facts. If that is in fact the truth, does that mean the most incredible thing of all? That a little film from 2007 starring none other than Nicolas Cage is not so much fiction, but fact? Well, yes. And no. Mostly no. I'm sorry to break it to you, stranger, but National Treasure Book of Secrets is just a flight of fancy. I'm no intelligence analyst, but take it from the Library of Congress, who posted on their blog in 2014, quote, "The National Archives and Records Administration keeps extensive records of investigations such as that regarding the Kennedy assassination, allegedly contained in the Book of Secrets. Many of these records are classified and not open to the public, at least for a certain period of time. But records of that usually involve thousands of pages of documents and would be managed by archivists with security clearance, not neatly contained in a single volume that could be passed from one president to another." End quote. Or is that just what they want you to believe? There may be a collection of national secrets, but maybe it isn't the weathered, hardback tome one might expect. Presidents come and go. Some even come back when all you want them to do is go. To jail. But the secrets they've learned, the knowledge that only they have been privy to, is something they carry with them always when they leave the Oval Office. We know that presidents talk to one another. New presidents are known to seek the counsel of others who formerly resided in their office. That makes sense. These men, always men, in the unique and trying position of such awesome power, must be drawn to one another by the common bond and burden of the presidency. That and being members of that clandestine supergroup known as the Pickle Factory. Who else can understand what they have been through? Who else can give truly informed advice about the trials of the role? And what of those secrets that each holds? Secrets gleaned through the singular challenges of each man's presidency. Might these secrets be passed down from one administration to the next, shrouded in layers of classified intelligence and national security protocols? It seems likely. It seems probable that these former leaders of the free world would seek to help those taking the baton from them, and to unburden themselves with the sharing of hard-won knowledge. So, stranger, the book is not just a daily report or a simple digest of world events. It's not even a heavily guarded book or iPad. We are talking about something that is much more than just a document. The true, unrevealed volume is, more precisely, the complex network of thought and memory, strategy and political perspective, the collaboratively linked experience and history of more than 14 U.S. presidents. That is a safe that can't be easily unlocked. It is a code that can't be broken, a book that cannot be deciphered, at least not all at once. Certain aspects of this dimensional and long history of secrets may be revealed to the public here and there, whether through declassification by the CIA or unverifiable leaks on a website devoted to weird and paranormal stories. But the truth is, stranger, we may never truly know the full breadth of what hides inside the President's Book of Secrets. Next time on Strange and Unexplained. When Dr. Sam Shepard awoke to find his pregnant wife murdered in their bed, he had no idea that this unspeakable trauma was only the beginning of a decades-long nightmare. Strange and Unexplained is a production of Three Goose Entertainment with help from Grab Bag Collab. This episode was written by me and Eve Kerrigan, with research by the Strange Research Squad. Editing help from Amber Hunt, and sound engineering and mixing by Henry Lavoie. If you have an idea for an episode, head to our website, strangeandunexplainedpod.com, and fill out the contact form. I will write back. Remember, virtual tickets for the True Crime and Paranormal Podcast Festival this weekend, July 12th through the 14th, are still available at truecrimepodcastfestival.com. Grab your virtual ticket to see my live show and many other festival highlights. For more amazing content, join us at patreon.com/grabbagcollab, where for just $5 a month you get all the Grab Bag exclusive shows, and for $8 you get those plus Amber Hunt's Crimes of the Centuries and Strange and Unexplained early and ad-free. Grab Bag is an all-female and non-binary owned profit share network where our contributors get to keep ownership of their shows. We strive to give a platform to those who might not be able to land themselves on a bigger network. Who knows? Maybe you have a podcast idea you'd like to pitch to Grab Bag. We've got live recordings, watch parties, book clubs, and more. There's so much going on over at Grab Bag, you'll wonder if we missed the memo on how capitalism works. Join me on Instagram at SNUPod, Daisy Egan, and Grab Bag Collab, or head to the Facebook page to join in the conversation. If you like the show, please visit a sponsor with our unique code. Give us a quick review and 5 stars, subscribe and download, and tell a friend. If you don't like the show, the name of the podcast is The Andrew Klavan Show, where you'll be treated to, quote, relentless mockery of racial pieties, sexual perversities, and feminist absurdities. Stay strange.